Huh? No, I don't drive those kind of vehicles. And I definitely wouldn't park next to the sheriff for sure. I thought
I thought you retired, John.
I'm just, this is my joy, just to hang around and watch them. Some people play golf, others just.
Yeah, you and me both.
Well, I think that we solved it for each one of those. I think Whitney was one of the other side. Well, you don't hear it live. Okay, I'll turn it up.
Well, in there's explosions to turn off. Mike, you got the live stream up?
The live stream is up, yes.
Federal Reserve.
Sorry? No, I just started the YouTube streams, and I just now started the meeting. You should be able to connect now.
I just saw that there. Okay. Rick?
Are we out?
No, these work. Those don't.
Leave the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys just doing it.
Are you going to reinforce your people or what?
Yep.
Yeah, but hey, what you been up to, man? I ain't seen you forever. Long time no see. Are we doing all right in your neighborhood?
Well, thank God. We're just south.
Yeah. I know what, you're not right far away.
Yeah, but how are you?
Oh, good.
A little chilly, isn't it?
You keep going. I'm going right straight through.
I'm getting hot.
Yeah. So are they gonna cut a road in right there?
You know why? We're gonna talk like that. No.
But you're in favor of that.
Are you, so, well, that is.
Except for we're getting shit.
So what road are you?
Gas shut off.
What road he's on?
We went from the north.
Yeah, we did all we could to get you out of there. Now, what crossroad are you on? Is that 143rd? What? Is it Edgerton? That's what I thought. I've never been out one of your houses when we first moved out. Everybody be lost without him.
Well, didn't Tiff say that?
Now the rest.
I'm trying to tell you.
Well, I'm talking retired, 8 years.
Yeah, I just straight out.
Are you considered, you're considered Gardner then? Yeah, how about
Oh,
you?
you're only across the street. So I tell him he used to live out there, I can't get tags, he kept trying to keep him going. Well, your house and you were, your address where you live. No kidding.
You got right into the line there.
I know they do the same thing with yours. Well, you remember that road called County Road?
Yeah.
I was always blocking my mother. Or is it another? I don't see it very often. No, they're going.
Gina's old house, Holly and Trevor.
You guys picked up a good neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
He used to live there. I guess that's.
She's my eighth lady.
Yeah.
You got the chickens?
Well, it's warmer weather.
Have you done the driveways yet?
Just like resurfaced?
No, you guys come out and do your show. You don't get.
Oh.
You don't have your yard's not neat, you think it was Angel.
I heard that.
I said that, I said they retired here.
That might be.
Yeah, I've never personally experienced that.
He's getting older, we gotta give him a little slack. Yeah, Joe almost cleaned 95.
Where's our Congress?
I just.
What pronoun do they
Your
use?
county didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
How do they do it now?
Yeah.
I'm just being accurate. I don't know what color.
Oh,
Congress. Them? I'm not sure she did.
Good, how are you?
There's no presenting information, and there's no debate.
She won't be here.
Kick the wolves away.
Gosh, you're not doing a good job.
Now look like it.
Like they're nibbling on the table there, take down stuff.
Yeah.
Hi, Danny, I see you logged in. How about a sound check? Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine, Mike. How about me?
Yep, you're loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you bought it. Oh, yeah. That day.
Yeah.
We're gonna schedule a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna go save it. The name to me.
Yeah, it was. We're still waiting on Oh, yeah. It also depends on where you stop. If we stop at KW, if we go another half block, there's another well, and it's so maybe it's a pressure to do it is. It would, but I don't know if that's the first project we were doing. I don't know. If that would be the first project. Yeah, he's. Sound check.
Oh, I'm counting on it.
Yeah, how's the rest of the family doing? Ain't seen any of them. Yeah. Kelly still working?
Six grandkids.
Got six?
Yeah. Five
girls and a boy. Get even with her or something. I bet they come out quite a bit. Where'd they end up moving to? Your daughter, I've never seen anybody.
Now being recorded.
There's fair warning.
Yeah, we all the cars in there once in a while. The last time I think. Said 600 really? This might be your last meeting. Maybe.
Yeah, if you could.
How long are you gonna stay there? You think? Oh, yes.
Do you have anybody else?
No, I
Because
don't.
I think.
Okay.
Get a lot of wisdom stuff out there.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Really? How's all that one? I mean, they're trying to get rid of them everywhere. Oh, now. Look, I'm really looking, yeah. They don't look at this. Yeah. What's going on?
So cool.
Yeah. We got a little. It's two side by sides. It's a lot. Yeah.
So you're looking for
There's no way.
Okay. You don't even have to whisper, I can't hear very well.
working on
Welcome, everybody, to the January 20th DeSoto City Council meeting. I'd like to start tonight with roll call.
Murdoch,
Here.
Daniels,
Here.
Michael,
Here.
Ritter,
Here.
Lane,
Here,
all are present.
All right, thank you. I invite you all now to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First on our agenda tonight is the public hearing, continuation of the public hearing for the Tiff tax increment financing district on 5,877 acres of the former Sunflower Army ammunition plant. I'm going to officially reopen that public hearing. Same comments I made last time. I'd ask you to be respectful when you come to the podium. Focus your comments on the TIF, please, and when you come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Anyone wish to address the council regarding the TIF?
I'll break the ice. My name's Charlotte O'Hara, and I live at 15712 Windsor Street, Overland Park. You know, I know these guys that are wanting this TIF district, and they're businessmen. And they are looking at this through the prism of making a profit. And that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to make profit on their development. However, you as public servants, you have to look at it through lenses of the public good. Is this really going to be for the public good? Diverting 100% of the taxes for 20 years while the city has to provide services? Is that really what is best for the city? I know that they are saying that they are going to be using this money not for environmental cleanup, but I did give you a list of what they had agreed to back in 2004, 2005 on removing structures. And I did have the, is it Brandon? I did have Brandon make copies of that so that you have that. I just want you to be very careful. And if you say no tonight on this TIF district, don't worry, it'll come back. It'll come back. TIFs have the eternal life. You kill them, they're back. So I would just urge you to be extremely careful about taking this step because you are committing for 20 years, plus there will be districts within the district. This could stretch out to 80 years. I mean, this is a long, long haul on diverting taxes from the public coffers. Thank you.
Marcotte, 8926 Detrimentally Street. I'm kind of confused here because you put up 5,000. The article that was put out in Channel 4 shows 1,033 acres of warehouse and industrial development, 130 acres of commercial mixed use, 13 acres planned for hotels. Now we're up to 5,000. That don't come up to 5,700. There is no communication from you guys where you come up with this extra industrial. Nothing's been out. No communication, no nothing. This is not good for the city of DeSoto at all. I said one of the things mainly of all is, like I said, it's going to take away most of the city services, being taxed on this for the income that comes out that you guys are going to do without. So you're going to have to file other bonds, which is going to put a real hurt to the city. If the schools decide to put bonds on, it's really going to hurt the city. And if the way this development goes, you're going to lead in these 3 schools, and then bonds are going to come from the taxpayer, and that is really going to significantly hurt the city.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, my name is David Hicks, 13983 170th Street, Bonner Springs. I'm here tonight representing the Sentinel publication of the Kansas Policy Institute. My question is 2 questions. Number 1, is the City Council comfortable with the idea of choosing winners and losers in this question, given this benefit to this developer at the expense of their competitors is an issue to consider? And will the council commit to refunding the property tax to the residents of the property owners of DeSoto once this Tiff is paid off? Thank you.
Hi guys, my name's Calvin Hayden, 14453 Edgerton Road. I don't think anybody in this room is more passionate about seeing something fantastic done with Sunflower. We've been after, I can remember being out here at the high school when we were talking about the wonderful Wizard of Oz that was going to bring in all these jobs and how goofy that was, and how it finally got stopped. Sunflower Development's busted their tails. They've done everything they can. The government cuts them off. Elections have consequences. There's 2 people that should be here that aren't here. One is Sharice Davids, who is our congresswoman, who hasn't done a darn thing for us or for anybody regarding Sunflower. If she was doing her job, the military would clean this up. But she's doing nothing. Of course, we're worried about her pronoun. And I think there's a county commissioner that's supposed to be here too, that's interested in being a chair. I don't see that lady here. I haven't been a former commissioner. Somebody should be here supporting you guys. Somebody should be taking your word to Washington. John, you guys, you've worked with congressmen, congresswomen. We need to get action out of these people in DC. You are the only city that can do a contiguous annexation to this property. It's not going to go away. You've got that. Nobody else can touch it. There's agreements with Gardner coming up or anybody else. Nobody's contiguous with the city of DeSoto. Let's not do the same thing over and over. The government created this problem. If I break something, I fix it. Now they made this problem. They created it in the name of national defense, the most honorable thing they could do. But it's their problem. Let them clean it up. Let's make sure they clean them up. Let's circle our wagons and start going to DC and making sure this happens. We need a congressman, we need our senators to be in on top of this, and they need to be doing their jobs for us. Guys, you know I love you. This is home for me. I want to make sure that we do something, not okay, let's do something fantastic. You've got the opportunity to do that. We've waited a long time to do this and do it right. You know, we in government, we have nothing. We have no money. We don't. Our citizens have got the money. We in government produce nothing. Private industry produces things. Think about that. You're not using your money. You're using your taxpayers' money, and I have to think about that every time I make a decision. So please be good stewards of the tax dollars and do what's best for all these citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Zach Bradley, 8341 Laramie Street. I would say I understand it's a difficult decision. However, I know that you guys represent the city and the residents like myself. And ultimately, the decision you make must be best for the residents of the city, not anybody else. Personally, I favor the development. I know that the Army is cleaning up its mess. It's still obligated to that no matter what. I think this development will help our city. I see no downside to the Tiff district, as the taxes it generates go right back into paying off the special obligation bond. So I just want to say that I support all the work that you guys have done in making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. That was you, Calvin, but.
God, I had all that time?
Yeah, you had another minute. Anyone else? While I get my clock to stop. All right, seeing none, I'm about to close the public hearing on the TIF, unless someone wants to speak. So, public hearing is closed on the TIF item. We will take up discussion of that as item 4A in our regular agenda. Our next agenda item is our consent agenda tonight. On the consent agenda, we have approval of our minutes from our meeting of January 6th and January 11th, approval of Pay Ordinance number 918, approval of our Fee Ordinance Resolution 1065, and approval of an Ordinance 2526, amending the city code to address metal detecting in city parks. Does anyone wish to discuss any item on the consent agenda, or do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Carmichael.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, I need to.
Okay. Clerk, please note, Councilman Ritter is leaving the meeting.
So noted.
Our next item is approval of Pay Ordinance 918A.
I'll make a motion, we approve Pay Ordinance 918A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Carmichael.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. I think Patrick went to get him. Item 2 is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. There's a 4-minute time limit. If you wish to address the council, please rise, state your, and be recognized by me. Come to the podium, state your name and address. Anyone on call to public? Okay, seeing none. Item 3 is old business. We have none, so we'll go to item 4A. Consider ordinance 2527 establishing tax increment financing district on 5,877 acres of the former Sunflower Army ammunition plant. Are we going to have any kind of introduction on this?
Well,
or-
I would just offer an introduction. We do have Kevin Wimpy on joining us on the video stream with Gilmore Bell. He did introduce this topic at our previous meeting, and I think gave the overview. He's happy to do that again, Mayor, at your pleasure, or we could proceed. The action that's being requested is approval of the ordinance that's attached to your staff report.
Okay. So does anyone want Kevin's overview again that we had at the previous meeting? I think maybe the thing, so I'll just start then. So seeing some of the comments around town, there's been some question about bonds and who buys the bonds and who owns the bonds and who sells the bonds. Kevin, can you speak to that, please?
Sure thing. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Kevin Wimpy with Gilmore Bell, the City Bond Council.
The discussion of bonds here for the proposed TIF district, I'll first state that, tonight we're considering establishment of the TIF district, and financial details and the financial plan related to the individual project areas would come at the, second stage of TIF financing. That said, here with the proposed project, we do have a pre-development agreement that the City Council considered several months ago, and it is in place. And it anticipated pay-as-you-go or pay-go financing related to this project. And what that means in very short order is that the developer will advance all costs and front the costs for the project, and then would be reimbursed as incremental property taxes accrued to the project site. So, in that vein with the TIF, there's no bond financing anticipated in relation to the TIF.
Thank you.
Responsive, Mayor?
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Thank you. Comments from council? I'll carry on then.
I have a question for Kevin.
Okay.
Kevin, the impact of a TIF on residence taxes and property taxes, is there any?
Right. So with TIF here, the tool is in place to gather the incremental property taxes generated at the project site. And so unlike other tax incentives where taxes are actually abated, with TIF, the property taxes are paid in full by the property owners within the TIF. But TIF allows part of those taxes to be diverted to repay those project costs. So coming full circle with the pay-as-you-go concept from earlier, think of the developer fronting the project costs, and then on the back end, as the property values increase, eligible property taxes can be collected by the TIF and then paid back to the developer for TIF-eligible project costs. So to answer in short, the new property taxes at the site are diverted, and it doesn't impact other property taxpayers outside of the district.
An eligible TIF would be mostly infrastructure, everything horizontal, nothing vertical?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's all the questions I have for Kevin.
So I'm just going to carry on a few of my thoughts, and then somebody else, if you are ready to speak, let me know. But I'm supportive of this TIF. I think Calvin spoke well to it. We've been dealing with this for 20 years, close to it. We weren't a partner or a party to the original plan, but we're square in the middle of it now, and that's where we want to be, because it has a very huge impact on our city, and by being part of it, we are able to steer it in the way that it best benefits this community in the long run. The reason I support it is because while we may not see a true immediate boom in our pocketbooks in our city, this is a decision we're making for the generations that come after us. It brings this property back to productive use. It puts our community in a great position in the future. We will have diversified and deepened our tax base. We will have an employment center within our community that will provide good jobs that you can live in the town and go to work in the city, in our own city. I see all these as positives. We've seen this project languish for many years, and I'm not willing to sit and watch it further decay on that site and not see it return to productive use.
I was going to say, last Thursday's county commission meeting, there was a county commissioner who talked about the fact that this could take up to $200 million plus out of the county coffers. The problem with that is, and Cal talked about tonight, the fact that this has been going on for decades and decades. If that property sits unused for decades again, 20 years of a TIF doesn't matter, because that property is sitting doing nothing and no taxes are coming in. So the fact that this would divert $200 million in taxes out of the coffers is really a misnomer when nothing's happening and no taxes are being collected on it. But for a development happening, there's nothing to divert. So the fact that we've got the ability to work with and actually be able to negotiate what's most beneficial for our city, a TIF that's going to help make a very blighted piece of land into profitable status. On Facebook, there was a gentleman who posted a video that had a very small amount views, but it was against the TIF. And it was from Wichita. And the most fascinating part about it was, besides the fact that it was outdated, and totally failed to mention that the school districts get 100% of the taxes generated in that increment. So they suffer no loss at all. It went on, and it was about 13 minutes long, but at 12 minutes and 30 seconds, he actually goes, for not retail, but for industrial type of projects, TIF can be beneficial to the community. So there are lots of reasons, and if it weren't for a TIF, we wouldn't have a grocery store. So TIFs can be done successfully, and we're in a position right now to be able to take what would maintain and continue to be unusable land and make it to where in the time that we have, we've got the ability to see it become profitable when it's not going to be profitable otherwise. And it will benefit our community and jobs, in money to our school districts to be able to pay teachers, fund students. My wife's a parent in the school district. She doesn't make anything. But this would generate revenue to be able to help support our children, help support our teachers, help support our community.
Yeah, Mayor, if I can
certainly
speak, appreciate every comment you made, Rob, and Mayor, I agree with everything you said. One thing I can maybe add, or a couple things, is if we take the whole tax discussion aside, because yes, that's all very valid, and I completely agree. The immediate benefit does become that by having this in place and by, as you said, putting this land to productive use, one of the main things that gets created is construction jobs. Those construction jobs immediately impact our community. Those construction jobs will fill up the Super 8. Those construction jobs will go to McDonald's and Burger King and stores. They'll buy materials and supplies from our local vendors. So those dollars do turn over immediately in our community to the benefit of our local businesses. Lumber One, Pennies, whoever it may be. So, I'm completely in support of it, and I'm completely in support of economic development because of what it will create for the future, as you said, but also for the dollars that turn over in the community today. I'm also in support of it because it backs a very well-crafted development agreement that actually requires the leverage of the developer's money. So I think this is going to become has the potential to become a statewide poster child for actually using incentive at no risk to the city to completely turn around a completely blighted property. So I think it will be a shining star.
Thank you. Lori?
So TIFs were created to be used for projects just like this. This isn't something we as a DeSoto council came up with and said, hey, let's figure out a way to do this. These are out there for the state because they are beneficial not only to DeSoto, but to the county and to the state. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there for us to use. So we need to use what's there so that this development can get moved on, so this piece of property can start becoming beneficial to everyone. The development itself, the area, Sunflower, you know, we've been watching this go on for 20 years or more, trying to figure out what's going to happen there. We didn't create that as a city either. What we are doing as a city is leading the direction of where it's going. We don't want someone else coming in and making the decisions for something that is in our back door. It is a part of the city now. This TIF is going to be something that's beneficial for not just the city, though, it is the state also, and I think that's really important to remember for everybody. And I also think that through this, we as a city staff and council members and mayor and city legal counsel that we've been using, you know, we are working hard at this. We can handle this. And I think a lot of people are trying to make it look like we're not ready for this. It's not the right time. You know, you've got some good people working on this project. And you can ask any of these developers in here if we've let them off easy. It has not happened that way for any of them. And it will continue to be that way. And I just kind of feel that we're kind of getting shoved under the rug as if we don't know what we're doing here. And that is not the case. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Lori. Kevin, any comment?
No, Mayor, I'm good. Everything that I said, I fully support, and I'd just be repeating it, so.
All right. Councilman Lane, Danny, do you have anything you'd like to add to the discussion at this time?
Yeah, I appreciate the comments. I'm sure that this has answered a lot of questions for a lot of people, because I know a lot of people are confused about the TIF. And I think this was really beneficial, and it's going to help the people understand. And this, like Lori said, these tools give us a chance to better things and guide things, where if we didn't use these tools, we wouldn't be able to shape the way that we need the city to go. And that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Any other comments, questions from council? Sounds like we're of a similar mind, so we might be ready for a motion.
I'd like make a motion, we approve ordinance 2527, establishing a redevelopment district and amendment thereof.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Mayor Walker.
No, Mayor doesn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. And Councilmember Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Item B, consider ordinance 2528 for annexation of 131 acres of land owned by the Johnson County Park and Recreation District. Now, I'm assuming this is the 131 acres that was incorrectly included in the original annexation. It's just interesting that now it wants to be part of the city. We had it right all along. We just didn't have things in order.
Yes, Mayor, that's the case. We just couldn't get the park's consent. It was a timing issue.
Right.
We now have that consent. Patrick, do you have anything to add?
Nope. I think we have a representative of the park district online.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he wants to make any comment. But,
I would invite them to make a comment if they choose to.
Good evening, members of the council. Jeff Stewart, Executive Director, Johnson County Park and Recreation District. I don't have any comments, just here to answer any questions if you have any for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? I'm not seeing any. Danny, any questions from you? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion, then we approve ordinance number 2528, annexation of land to the city of DeSoto.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Carmichael.
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and council. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move on now. Item C, consider rezoning of property at the northwest corner of 103rd and Edgerton Road.
Mayor, I have to continue on with my conflict of interest on this, and I will recuse myself.
All right. Clerk will note that Councilman Michael is leaving the meeting.
So noted.
Okay. Item 4C, Brad, were you going to do a presentation on the rezoning?
Yes, absolutely, Mayor, thank you.
All right.
Be sure to speak right into that mic, Brad.
Yeah, I will do my best and lean in.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. What you have before you is a rezoning request from RUR, it's Johnson County Rural Agriculture designation to M1 DeSoto's Light Industrial for 371 acres at the northwest corner of 103rd and Edgerton Road. As you know, this is part of the annexation that took place on November 18th. Actually, that just recently revised due to an error in the legal description. However, with that, the Planning Commission went through its zoning evaluation process for this tract on December 21st, 2021. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on this request, and the Planning Commission did recommend to the City Council a vote to deny the rezoning request. Additionally, a protest petition was also received by city staff on December 30th, 2021, and appears to be valid. I'll go ahead and proceed with the additional items in the staff report. It's pretty much a mirror of what was presented to the Planning Commission on the 21st of December. But I think it's important to hear exactly, or as close as possible, to what staff put together for the Planning Commission during that meeting. The application materials were submitted in November of 2021. As I mentioned, the site is RUR, Rural Agriculture. Current zoning map is included in your staff report. It shows the county designated zoning areas, which are significantly basically rural, all around the site where it abuts the DeSoto city limits that were shown at that time within the exhibit in the report. Since then, with the annexation, those tracts that were annexed would be rezoned to an appropriate DeSoto category. This is by state statute, and we are following those procedures. The applicant, as I did say, turned in the application, and also then at that point, the staff initiated the public hearing notifications, sent out letters to nearby property owners, and also a sign was placed on the property. Prior to the meeting, several residents did inquire to myself about the rezoning and also asked specifically about protest petition forms, and they were requested, as I did mention, a protest petition has been submitted to the city staff, and as I said, it appears to be applicable. The reasons for, since the Planning Commission meeting, I did put together a little summary on why the Planning Commission, or some of the comments that were received at that meeting, is the Gabriel land could be put to more palatable use to the nearby residents, such as R1. felt like the M1 use would be better located on the former Sunflower Ammunition property south of 103rd Street. Of course, they talked about the negative change in the quality of life, including doing large distribution buildings or other uses allowed in the M1, increase the truck traffic, using roads not designated, designed for heavy truck use. There are no sanitary sewers on site, and as I mentioned, quality of life issues. There also was some concern about the timing of the rezoning request happening right before Christmas and over the holiday season. There seemed to be a perceived urgency of the applicant and the city staff to take this item on this at this time. Concerns were also raised by the residents of unincorporated Johnson County that they had no real representation to the elected officials who would ultimately decide on this rezoning request. These are also notes that I took during the meeting. I also did go back and review taped and verbatim information that we do on our website, so I can capture as best possible that information for you to be put into this staff report.
Hard to understand you.
Right now, I'm going to go through the view of the general zoning requirements. The subject property, as I had mentioned, is zoned RUR, Rural Residential District, under Johnson County zoning regulations. As this would imply, it is used for residential, agricultural, and related uses. However, as stated in the Johnson County regulations, it can also be used for a holding category until an appropriate use is determined. At this time, the land uses in the area are certainly rural residential. The site itself is agricultural. It has been used for row crops for many years, and the nearest non-rural residential or non-rural use is the Clearview City Housing Complex, which is actually its own Z2 general commercial, even though it is a duplex type community. It's about 3/4 of a mile east of the property. Uses allowed within the DeSoto light industrial category include crop production, greenhouses, mining operations, other manufacturing uses, wholesale trade, retail uses, transportation and warehousing, professional technical services. At this point, I do have the existing zoning map and then also the tract, the aerial photo, which does show the tract to be rezoned. As it's clearly can be seen, there are a lot of residential open fields, large lot, tract homes in this area that surround the site. As part of the process that the Planning Commission went through, and this is all set out by state statute, also known as the golden criteria, is the review of zoning compatibility factors. The City Council relies on a recommendation from the Planning Commission to consider these factors that they deem relevant to the questions of the compatibility in the best interests of the city. Of course, this is just a recommendation to the City Council, who is the final decision maker on this item. I will go through the items that Mike and myself put together in the staff report and our recommendations for each one of these items that are part of the criteria that is set forth in the DeSoto City Code. First is the character of the neighborhood. As stated, the primary uses of the property are rural, residential, and agriculture. This area has been considered as a transitional area for quite some time. I actually went back in 2004, was when the DeSoto City Council approved a comprehensive plan that showed this area as business park and light industrial. So that actually has been part of this process for now 15 or over 15 years, nearly 20. So this transition has been thought about and looked at for quite some time. However, you could also make the case that the pace has been extremely slow. It's taken a long time to get to this point in time. However, we are in a situation now where development has been able to find a way to make this work. It is a site that has access to 2 diamond interchanges. It is a significant sized property, and it has been a high-profile discussion item for the economic development in DeSoto for quite some time. Moving on to compatibility, the proposed zoning and uses of nearby property. Most of the uses allowed within the M1 zoning district will require significant buffers in these adjacent areas. It is noted that any development with the proposed M1 zoning would require an approval of a site plan, which would also go before the Planning Commission, which would show detailed plantings, berms, fencing, access points, road improvements, utility improvements, grading, lighting, noise, all sorts of items that we do already have in our city code that city staff would evaluate and make a recommendation. We also, during this process, as you know, work with the developer. We don't just take what they give us and make a few comments. We do spend hours and hours looking at these things and making sure that they line up and are compatible with our city code and the things that we require within the site plan. However, with all the buffering and the items that we do have, it would be difficult at some time to make these sort of items disappear. The residents of this area will see them. They will know they're there, but we do try our best to utilize the standard design practices that we do have built into our city code to limit impacts to any residential structures nearby. Suitability of the uses to which the property has been restricted under existing zoning. This property has been vacant, or pardon me, it's been used for farm ground for quite some time. So it does have a productive use. However, there is a higher and more productive use that's being proposed on this site, which could not be used under its current zoning. The length of the time the properties remained vacant as zoned, as I mentioned, it's been row crops for decades. The property has been marketed and touted by the economic development agencies here in DeSoto as prime development property, but due to lack of infrastructure, primarily sanitary sewers, there's not been a proposed rezoning change or change in the land use until this past December. The extent that there's a need in the community for this use, one thing that cities do is economic development. Economic development is seen as the overall benefit to the community. It does provide tax and expanding tax base. And as I mentioned, the subject site has been an economic development goal for the city of DeSoto and the Economic Development Corporation for many years. As I mentioned, it was adopted in the 2004 comprehensive plan. Also, the property size and direct access to K-10 are unique within DeSoto's planning territory. These factors have been all part of the compelling reason why this location has been a high area for economic development. The availability and adequacy of required utilities and services. The property is in an area with limited public sanitary sewer service. At this point, there would need to be a line extended all the way over to Sunflower Avenue to tie into the utility sanitary sewer line that does go down past our sanitary sewer treatment plant. At this point, the development that's being proposed, the unique economics of that now work, where it could be built into the process. One thing that was discussed or brought up at the Planning Commission meeting was, can residential do something like this? And while we don't have final numbers on it, the generated taxes and things like that just would not allow something like that to specifically happen. So this type of use is probably the best way to get that sanitary sewer line and get those issues resolved as far as utilities, especially the sanitary sewer item. Rural Water District has a water main that is owned and operated by Water 7 that will provide access to this site from Edgerton Road or 103rd Street. This water main could serve the entire site for all the development that is being proposed there. Electrical services available nearby. As we know, the Evergy has been working on increasing their distribution system in a tract not too far away, so there won't be any issues with upgrades or additional energy needed. There won't appear to be any problems with police, the sheriff's department, or fire service in this area. So there's no adverse impact expected upon surrounding services from this use. Edgerton Road is a paved surface, but it is not designed to stand heavy truck or vehicular traffic. It is a rural county road. 103rd Street in this area is the former K-10 highway. It was built to heavy truck traffic standards by the Kansas Department of Transportation. The road has been well maintained since it was transferred to DeSoto, and as I mentioned, it can withstand heavy volumes of traffic. In addition, as we've talked many times, there are access to K-10 highway, which is in essence an interstate highway nearby. To the extent which the use is allowed would adversely affect the capacity or safety of the portion of the street network influenced by this use, which, as I mentioned, the highway system nearby, other than Edgerton Road, is and the roadway system will be able to withstand the uses proposed on this development. Is also part of this, so it'll be requiring upgrades to those roads and improvements to the roadway system as part of this overall development. I'd also mentioned many times before at the Planning Commission and during the staff report that site plan will be required, which will be approved by the DeSoto Planning Commission, and it will include traffic studies, noise studies, lighting studies, stormwater studies. We'll look at some environmental issues as well. So those are the types of things that we go through when we evaluate development within DeSoto. Environmental impacts, which are typically stormwater, water pollution, air pollution, noise pollution, excessive lighting, as I had mentioned, are all part of our site plan review process. We will address those items as specific projects are proposed for this location if it is rezoned as requested. Economic impact of the community on the uses allowed on this proposed zoning. As previously stated, most developments that increase the value of property, they do add to a job base, they increase commerce, they increase putting DeSoto on the map, so to speak, as a more industrial and economic area where people want to do business. This is these are the things that cities do, things that we are typically challenged with as staff to allow for increases in tax base, not just for the city, but for the school district, for the fire district, for the state, and also to the county. So these are all positive things that staff believes will come from this potential development. Item J, the extent which the zoning amendment may detrimentally affect nearby property. As we have discussed and also talked about Planning Commission, there are several single-family homes along residence along Edgerton Road. There are several along 95th Street, and then there are several in the extended areas around from this location. As said, some potential M1 uses may not be adequately be able to fully buffer every impact that we have on an M1 district, but the perceived overall gain from this to the city of DeSoto seems to outweigh some of those potential negative impacts. But as I've also mentioned many times, we do have a site plan process. We take all these things very seriously, try to incorporate as much many things as possible to limit the impacts to nearby residents and allow for these types of developments to blend into the fabric of the community. The relative gain, if any, to the public health, safety, and welfare from a denial of rezoning application as compared to upon the hardship imposed upon the rezoning applicant from such denial. Due to the possible these are all things that sort of tie together as we move through these things, but as you can see, we're looking at an item of urban versus rural, development versus quality of life types issues that are very difficult to put a dollar amount on, but overall we have to look at the overall benefit to the city of DeSoto, but we do have to be mindful of the potential impacts to the residents nearby. And as I've mentioned, we do take these site plan development items very seriously. We try to do our best. We have setbacks that we all have to meet. And the developer is very well aware of these setbacks, and we've had many conversations about the city code and how they can incorporate these items into their ultimate proposal that will come before the planning commission for some sort of, for an evaluation. Consistency with the comprehensive plan, utilities, and facilities plan. In 2019, DeSoto adopted or updated the comprehensive plan. It did show this area as light industrial with some mixed-use commercial. We also looked at the land use plan in 2021 and utility and updated just these sections of the comprehensive plan. Utility and infrastructure plan in 2021. These were adopted by the planning commission and also ultimately passed along to the city council for approval. Oh, sorry. Started leaning back again, apologize. So this, as I'd mentioned, this is shown in the 2004 DeSoto Comprehensive Plan, so this is not a new item. This is something that's been on the radar screen for quite some time. The most recent updates to the land use plan and the infrastructure plan were based upon more solid and concrete evidence as we saw different changes in the economy, developments as big box distribution centers are now becoming a way of life. I don't think anybody would have seen anything like this happening 18 years ago, but they knew that this was a prime economic development area, and that's what's been shown in the comp plan for nearly 20 years. Recommendation, final one, recommendation of professional staff. Our recommendation is to approve the rezoning, mostly because of the long-term development processes and repeated comprehensive plans have updated and upheld the desire for this tract to be light industrial. We do work with the development community on a variety of issues, and at this point, the proposed developer has been very forthcoming as far as wanting to meet our site plan requirements, do as much as they possibly can to ease this transition to the nearby residents and make for a development that will be palatable for everyone involved. That concludes the review of the golden criteria. As with all rezoning actions, the Planning Commission, I'll just reiterate, makes a recommendation to the City Council. The recommendation was to deny the rezoning request. Also, a protest petition has been filed. And I guess if you have any specifics on what exactly needs to take place for the council to make a decision to override the Planning Commission, you can refer to Patrick. This time I will stand for any questions that you all may have.
Any questions for Brad on his report?
One question, this would be for Brad, maybe Mike, probably Brad. Now that we've annexed, it has to be rezoned, correct?
It has to be rezoned.
And we do not have an RUR zoning.
We do not have RUR, so it will have to be rezoned.
What are the options for rezoning?
Well, I mean, within 90 days, if this does not get rezoned, I guess the option would be to de-annex the property.
But what would be the city zoning options?
We do have an agriculture, if we just wanted to have it stay there. The city would have the option within 90 days to a city-initiated rezoning. So
But
we
what
can
I'm
choose.
asking is what are the zoning? What zones do we have?
Well, we've got heavy industrial, light industrial, general, retail, our downtown retail district, R1, R2, R3, R2A, office industrial, and then we also have a planned unit development. So, and it would be a city, if no action is taken at some point, the city would initiate, we're required to initiate a rezoning on our own.
I might just comment on that as well. If it were a city-initiated rezoning obviously that rezoning would have to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, which, as has been mentioned for some time now, has been, that's been out there. So any rezoning would, that would be a criteria we would have to keep in mind that, the zoning district that it would be zoned to would be consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Okay. Answer your question?
Yeah, that's all I have for Brad.
Okay.
I won't have other stuff.
Okay. This is not a public hearing item. We've all heard the comments from the Planning Commission meeting. I know I have, and I'm sure everybody else has. Read the minutes. Received a few comments via email. So I think now it's time for us to take on the item and begin our discussion. Unless anybody has any objection to that approach. I will start with my thoughts, if that's all right. The highway access and visibility of this site make it ideal for the light industrial development. It's sat vacant so long and been targeted for that use because of that visibility, but now finally the market is caught up to this site. I mean, the world has finally found us and caught up with it. But our comprehensive plans and future land use maps have envisioned a more intense use for this property for over 20 years. In fact, I went through the 2004 update that Brad referenced. We invited everybody, basically everybody west of 95th Street and beyond the city to be a part of the discussion of this west plan development and when this future land use plan and comprehensive plan update was taken on back in 2004. So we did that knowing that we didn't have, it wasn't in our city, but it was in our extraterritorial planning, and to let folks know that we had some ideas that might impact their lives and that they might want to pose some comments to. So we are not the first body that ever thought of this use for this property. I mean, it's 2004 it was shown, but I've seen them back to 1997, and I think if we probably pulled up some paper maps, we would have seen some use other than ag or low-density residential even on those maps. The proposed zoning conforms with our current comp plan and future land use map. The transportation network is in place to support this, particularly K10. Our city development codes will require the local streets be improved at a level that will support the development, and that will happen when a development plan comes forward. And then the gain or the positive economic impact that this can have on our city to diversify, broaden, and deepen our tax base is a great benefit and a reason that I support it. I would ask anybody else if you would like to.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I think some of the general things that we try to follow, of course, is just what Brad has gone over as for the rules of rezoning. And I think as we go through those, we can see that although there is one negative impact, most of them are a positive impact to the city. And, you know, one of the reasons that it's hard to turn down a rezoning when we have everything looking in favor of that. As you mentioned, Mayor, the K10 access has been there. You know, it even seems much more when you're looking at the map right there with, you know, a whole side of that is lining K10. This has always been part of planning that everywhere between Lawrence and Lenexa was going to be at some point some kind of development in this sort of area. And this is prime because of those two accesses and the way that lays. Also, the connection with that, with the future developments that will happen out in Sunflower, I think tie together with that being there. Another big thing is how it's been marketed. Some of the city council members, some city staff knows of some projects that have been close to coming to DeSoto, and this piece of property has been marketed by the owner for this kind of a purpose. It's not feasible to, that he's going to keep it just as farmland forever, and that's going to be how this is going to stay. It's also not financially, for the same reason, financially going to make it with trying to do housing on this area. So even though it would be beneficial for those people that live around it, it's not going to happen. It just financially is not going to be what's going to happen with the person that owns this piece of property and what he's selling it for now. We've all mentioned, we've heard a lot that this has been a part of the future plans for quite a while. So while some of you, some people in the stands, in the audience maybe lived here before it, maybe some came afterwards. You know, everything we do, we're planning for the future. And with this piece of property, it just happens to be that the future is here. And a development is going to happen here. And this land was chosen for various different reasons. And again, with the city being involved, we can direct it in the way that it needs to go. So I too agree that this is a piece of property that has benefit to the city in a whole. And even with some of the planning on what might happen with any kind of funds going to the roads and sewers and various things, it's still going to be a benefit overall for the city.
Thank you. Rob?
So this has been interesting in a lot of ways, but number one, I do empathize with the residents that are out there. There have been residents that have addressed this by spreading misinformation and in some cases even lies, such as the city is going to kick the Clearview residents out of their houses and totally redo that. On the other side, there's been residents that have reached out to me, and we've been able to sit down and talk. And to those, I very much appreciate the time that we've had to talk, whether we agreed or not, and I thank you for that. First point that I've got is this has been planned. Last council meeting, last non-special council meeting, one of the residents mentioned that they bought the land 12 years ago and built their house 6 years ago. And if I talk to anybody here, it's going to be rare that you bought the property and started building immediately. You had a time where you looked at it, you were trying it, you built it, or bought the land, and then you developed your housing plan to go on that land. The difference between a city or municipality or county government and a residential is it takes us longer. We don't just plan and immediately turn around and do it. So this has been in the plans for a long time. You've heard the future land use referred to many a time. Quick question, Patrick. The future land use is a legal document, correct?
It is.
And does that bind us to anything when we file that?
Well, the way it governs or binds the council is the case of Golden versus City of Overland Park. That's a Kansas Supreme Court decision, and within that decision, the Supreme Court indicated that one of the criteria that the council, when considering a rezoning, has to take account is that the property that's requested to be rezoned, granting that rezoning, would that be consistent with the future land use map, which is contained within the comprehensive plan? So that is the importance of it. It's not a black and white thing that you must 100% rezone or you can't do the rezoning if it's inconsistent, but that's definitely a criteria that that the Supreme Court has indicated. So that's why the fact that this has been classified as this in the future land use map is so important here because the Supreme Court decision would say that this rezoning is consistent with that. So therefore, that would be looked favorably on a court if this were challenged in any way.
And what happens if the county plans one thing and the city plans another? Is there a zone that would dictate one potentially has precedence over the other, or a buffer zone, or?
Well, it's now within the jurisdiction of the city, so what the county had it designated really is irrelevant to this proceeding. So the city future land use map would be the governing document.
So this is something the city's been planning for a long time, whether it be light industrial, multi-use, which is light industrial, or anything but single family. We talked about how far back it goes. The annexation agreement that kind of planned out where the city was going goes back as far as 1989, when we signed an annexation agreement with Gardner and Olathe. So where we were looking to expand as a city probably can go back that far, that we were going to the southwest. When it comes to talking about the Planning Commission, we've heard the fact that the Planning Commission recommended denial of the passing of it. And that denial was contrary to the staff recommendation. Patrick mentioned the golden criteria. And and this is back to you, Patrick, if the Planning Commission denies it and if we deny it, the next step could be an applicant could appeal that. And if they appeal it, what are the criteria for upholding or overriding the council's decision?
Yeah, so any appeal would go to the Johnson County District Court, and in that proceeding, the Johnson County Court or judge would be looking to determine, did the city comply with the Golden case, and that, again, are the criteria that Brad went through, and actually I've included each of the criteria in the ordinance that is before you. So that would be the focus of the court, would be, did the city council, who's the ultimate decision maker, did they consider the Golden criteria in making a decision? So again, that's why those criteria are so important.
In that arbitrary and capricious, are those terms that would be considered?
Yeah, that's the terminology that the Supreme Court has used when the Golden criteria are not considered. For example, if the city council decided, well, we don't like the development because of the people that will live there or work there, that would be an example of something the court would say is arbitrary and capricious because it's not tied to the Golden criteria.
Okay, so back to my comments. The Planning Commission recommended denial. In that Planning Commission meeting, Commissioners Lane and Templin voted to, or actually made the motion to approve the rezoning, which failed 4-2, at which point the motion was put forward to recommend a denial. Commissioners Lane and Templin were the only ones to give valid explanation and clarification as to why they were going to vote the way they were going to vote. Two of the commissioners gave no reasoning whatsoever on their vote to deny. Two of the commissioners did give some explanation. The explanations were, one of the commissioners said that the future land use map was for the future and he didn't think it was going to happen for 10 to 20 years, when this has been a map that's been around for a while. The other commissioner stated he thought it would be better as residential. The interesting part of that and the challenging part of that, you've heard the future land use maps, most recently approved by the Planning Commission unanimously in July of 2021, and then approved by us, included light industrial. And in 2018, that future land use map was reviewed and approved unanimously by the Planning Commission and the council. The interesting part of that is the 4 commissioners that voted no all voted in favor of both future land use maps. One of the things that I have held to from the very day I got elected up here is that when an elected official is up at this dais, we get the opportunity to pass ordinances, pass laws. We get the ability to shape it. However, once we have an applicant come before us, that's not the time that we get to rewrite the laws. Once we've said this is what the ordinance is, and somebody comes before us asking, whether it be a residential person saying, look, the ordinance says, and I mean, I'll give you an example myself. I moved to DeSoto. The house I bought didn't have a garage. I'm on 5¼ acres. Under the ordinances of today, I can have a 3,000 square foot detached building. I have a little over 1,000 square foot garage. Why? Because the ordinances at the time said I could have 250 square feet per acre. It's been amended. I could probably add on to it. But at the time, it wouldn't have been the ability to come before the council and say, I want 3,000, let me have it, even though the ordinance, and the council goes, whatever, okay. Once we pass it, we need to follow it. And so the future land use maps have been passed by the commission, so when one of the commissioners says, I think that should be better residential, they had the opportunity to revise that map. They had the opportunity to revise that plan, and they didn't. They said that is the good and appropriate use for that. So when they come back and make this recommendation of denial to the council, 2 things are happening. One, they're putting us at legal jeopardy of being sued under the golden criteria, and if it's found to be arbitrary and capricious, then the developer would win anyway. So, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, Patrick, but what that means is their ruling at the Planning Commission basically says it doesn't matter what we've done on the future land use maps in 2018 and 2021, we're going to do what we want now. That we have somebody asking for it to be rezoned to what we've said is the plan. So the Planning Commission, in my opinion, absolutely erred in the sense that they didn't follow the golden criteria. They made an arbitrary decision at that point in time that did not match what they had recommended to us. And that's problematic. So with that, with this property and Sunflower, the residents I've talked to, almost unanimously, as far as the DeSoto residents that we represent, because of the benefits to the community, very strongly support seeing things happen out in that area. As far as some of the objections, it's been mentioned fair market value. When you talk about 2 highway exits like Mayor Walker and Councilmember Murdoch has mentioned, you're not going to see a residential developer be able to fair market value over the light industrial, over the development. It's been mentioned that, well, what interest does the city have? We've had the interest for a long time. It's been mapped out. Sunflower is better suited for the M1. That traffic that goes to Sunflower isn't going down Lexington Avenue alone. If Sunflower develops, you're going to see that traffic using all 3 exits, most likely. So you're still going to be dealing with the traffic. The roads are still going to have to be upgraded, and you're still going to be dealing with the fact that it's developing, and that area is developing, and the pattern and the path that the city for a long time has directed our partners in our economic development and said, from this council before I was ever on it, this is the appropriate use, go find stuff for it. And now that it's here, we don't get to change our minds at the last minute without risk of consequences. But first and foremost, this is gonna benefit our schools, this is gonna benefit our community, and it's gonna be positive for a lot of areas. So for those reasons, I fully support, and when the time's right, would be happy to make the motion.
All right, thank you, Rob. Kevin?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I don't want to drag this on. I just want to say that, you know, I appreciate all the hard work, like you mentioned, Councilman Murdoch, and the dedication that the developer has mentioned about being a partner in this area, and making, you know, our community better. And there couldn't be a better piece of land in the state of Kansas that has this kind of access. So, you know, and for all the reasons that Rob already went through, I'm not going to repeat them. You know, it's just something we have to follow.
Thank you. Councilman Lane, Danny, any comments, questions?
No, I don't really have any more, Mayor. I appreciate what you said, Lori. I know that this is a good thing for the city, and I'm going to go along with it. And I feel good about this. I think in the long run, it's going to be a great benefit. So that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you. I think we're of a like mind. Anything you need to add before we make a motion? Patrick?
Don't think so. The mayor does cast a vote on this item, and like I said, the golden criteria have been set out in the ordinance. So.
All right, thank you. Do you want to make a motion, Rob?
I make a motion that having fully considered the golden criteria, staff's recommendation to approve the rezoning, and keeping in mind this body must consider the interests of the entire community, not just neighboring properties, I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2529, rezoning the property at the northwest corner of 103rd and Edgerton to M1 Industrial Light District.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Mayor Walker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is to discuss Pinner Avenue Waterline Project. Do you want to hold up just a second or two? I'm going to call a 2-minute break. We'll be back in 8:19.
Question for you. Did you talk to the sheriff's office? Are you kidding me? So you're up here representing me. We didn't have any problems with this. Okay. The next time he says that he spoke to the sheriff's office, make sure he speaks to me. Because we've got truck problems everywhere, guys.
I spoke to our sheriff's liaison.
Who's the sheriff's liaison you spoke to?
Chip.
Chip does not represent the sheriff.
Okay, he's our contact?
I understand that. You should have talked to me.
Okay.
Because we deal with trucks all the time. There's no way we can make truck stops on Edgerton Road or Old K-10. There's no shoulders, guys. It's dangerous. And we've got to do the enforcement. So please, talk to me before you do it.
Thank you, Calvin.
I don't know. We had 2 minutes. We got about another minute. Let me see here. Maybe another minute. All right, it is 8:19. We're all back, all right? Call the meeting back to order. You're on.
All right, thank you, Mayor. City Council, what you have before you is a update basically on considering extending the 8-inch water main along Penner Avenue. As you recall, last summer, several members of the VFW approached the council about improving the water capacity to allow for a sprinkler system to be installed at the VFW so they could complete indoor fireworks sales. It also needs to be done because that area doesn't exceed 100-person capacity, and that's sort of the threshold for needing a sprinkler system. It was built prior to the current code, so it's grandfathered in, so we can't force the VFW to install something. However, there was a request by the VFW because they saw an opportunity to sell their fireworks indoors, sell more fireworks, and once again, they approached the council about extending the water line. We evaluated this project and spoke with Marshall, Goodnight, and Mike and I also talked about where we put the water line, the specifics of where it might go. There is a map included in your packet that shows we'd extend the 8-inch main about 1,200 feet from 85th Terrace up to the southern entrance to the VFW. And then the VFW would be responsible for extending the service to the building and adding a sprinkler system. Additionally, 2 hydrants and 1 valve would also be put in place on this project. Since when I put together the staff report and then items were published, I did follow up with Doug Bedford, the VFW, and the VFW has decided they do not want to pursue indoor fireworks sales. So still wanted to bring this forward to you. There are certainly potential benefits to proceeding with the project, not only just for the VFW. We did talk about, as I recall, at that meeting, increased fire protection for that area.
Right.
VFW currently, the hydrants around there would not support pumper trucks that would have, so the water would have to basically be tanked in if something horrific were to happen to that building. So there still is some advantages or some reasons why you still want to consider extending that water main. It would also allow for additional fire protection to the residents of that area as well. So we wanted to give you that update. So one of the reasons that this project got some urgency and significance was because of the potential fireworks sales within the VFW and also sprinkler system within the VFW. But there's also reasons outside of that. Just wanted to get council's thoughts on.
I like it. I mean, you know, that's got a use out of occupancy, right? Is that the word?
Yeah.
VFW. I mean, if we can get better fire protection to something that can have 300 people in it, or I think that's a good thing. We don't have a hydrant there. The other thing I see with this is we're going to have 83rd Street Bridge project going in soon. And with that project, probably that 4-inch main then can be upgraded there, and then, you know, maybe then that's a way to look at extending that and getting that 8-inch loop closed a little closer, maybe all the way. I don't know, but I just see it. 2 reasons: the occupancy and use of the VFW and getting the best fire protection that we can get there with enhanced flow would be great, and then an opportunity then to extend that with that 83rd Street Bridge project.
Well, and if the business that's next to that were to sell, they would be not grandfathered in, so then that business could only have 100 people in it with being sprinkled, so this would benefit them as well.
The wheel building? Okay.
Yeah, 'cause bars are limited to 100.
Okay.
I will say
Lori?
that
Oh,
we
sure.
did consider extending it beyond the VFW, but it another 600 feet. And as we evaluated, there's some different pressures on either side of Tanner Avenue. We just felt that it would be 1,200 foot extension. Best. So I don't know how well it might serve the.
Does it pick up an 8-inch? I'm sorry, Lori.
No, go ahead. Finish your thoughts. You're good. Don't worry about it.
Ottawa Street, do we pick up an 8-inch there? It's kind of the edge of the map. Is that how far we'd have to go to close the loop on
So, no, I can't answer that. I don't remember
I'm
if there's
just-
an 8 inch or bottom. I think it might be a 6.
Okay.
It's somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there, I mean, all right.
Yeah, so we had thought about extending it up to 83rd Street here, up to this point.
Yeah.
Which would then connect it to this 6 inch that goes back to the Lakeview area. So that's an option that we considered. You know, the primary reason we wanted it on this agenda, knowing it was going to be a full night, was that, you know, the time crunch for the VFW to sell fireworks this summer. And I understand, Brad, that's kind of off the table now with them?
That is correct.
Okay, so when we had that deadline, my thought was the delivery method would have to be design build, right? So, because we wouldn't be able to make that design bid build happen before the end of June. So my intent was to get it on your radar screen because we have, PEC is doing a system-wide hydraulic model for us. And we talked with them about a design contract, what that would cost to build this line. The full design contract was going to take too long, so it would be pretty expensive.
Right.
So I intended to maybe engage them on a design build proposal, you know, just a lettered proposal to seek design build proposals. And that might well be under my $5,000 spending authority. So that was kind of the concept initially. But to get this going and be quick with it. I think at this point, it's a good idea, but I think we're within a few weeks of getting the hydraulic model back.
Let's wait.
So let's do that. Let's wait to proceed with this, as long as we're sure that the VFW is not going to need it this summer. So let's close that loop.
Okay, I can follow up with Mr. Bedford.
Yeah, because I think they kind of decided it's going to cost so much internally to sprinkle the building that maybe they're going to go a different direction. I just didn't want to be in a position of, you know, having them come last summer and asking us for help, and we weren't able to help, and so we talked about this project. So if nothing else, so if we hear from Mr. Bedford that we're not going to be selling inside sales this year, then we'll wait till we get the model back and come back to you with another. It might be the same project, might be a different project that's more beneficial. Let's do that. If we hear from Mr. Bedford that, oh my God, are you kidding? No, we need it, then I'll let you know, and I'd like to kind of proceed with the design build concept if I could.
Okay.
And that'd be some probably under my spending limit design, just help getting a proposal, an RFQ.
Right. Lori, did you have a comment?
I was just going to state that no matter what the reason that it was brought forth to us, you know, we've found where we're underserved there in that area, and we need to at some point put it on our project list. Now, this obviously is allowing us to probably do it not at such a quick pace, which will probably allow it to do it, I'm going to guess, a little bit more reasonable, maybe, possibly, by just being able to do it the best way. So that's all I was going to say, is it's definitely something that we should look at. If we don't need it right away, then find the best approach to doing it. That really kind of falls into how we usually plan this type of thing and do it, instead of rushing.
Yeah, good point. Kevin?
Ditto to everything that said. Mike, I have a question. This may be something I've lost track of myself. What about the CARES Act money or so? We got close to $1 million, and I'm not sure how that's been parceled out yet, but we talked about things like this could be funded.
Exactly, yeah. So we received, there's final guidance now from the feds, and I don't think it's materially different. Water, wastewater, broadband improvements can be used. We've wrapped those revenues, and we've already got half of them. We're going to get the next half this year. Wrap those into the capital improvements plan. And you guys have seen an initial list and prioritized some of that. We've been delayed on our public involvement for that, but we plan on picking up the public involvement for the CIP. So that money is going to be wrapped into the CIP overhaul that we're kind of in the middle of right now.
And so would this fall within that or fall out?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, this is eligible for those funds for sure. Yeah.
Well, it would definitely be great to come back to them all with, maybe move that closer to uptown.
Yeah, or it might identify something else that could help another area that's even worse underserved, and we'll see. The whole uptown is, you could probably say is underserved, similarly underserved, and that's not at all uncommon. Every town has those areas. Yeah.
Right. Okay. You got enough direction now?
Yes, sure do.
Yes.
All right.
Since this was an agenda item, does it need tabled or anything, or do we just move on?
I don't know.
I think we can move on. We weren't really asking.
They weren't asking for any action. They weren't asking for
Just direction.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, consider final plat for carriage houses of Johnson County, number 10.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is carriage houses number 10, Building Z. This is part of a process that we've been going through for many years. Initially, a final plat is presented to the Planning Commission and the City Council. Once they get a building permit of the buildings, once the walls are in place, they do a resurvey and replat so they can sell off the individual units. So nothing really has changed from the development plan to the final plat to now this replat. It's just that each unit has a specific square footage that can now be sold, recorded at the county, and then all hopefully sold to individual buyers. So this is part of a process that now we've done many times before. It's pretty standard. And so this is number 10. There will be a building to the east of this development, which will be coming sometime soon as well. But right now they're ready to sell units in the building number 10.
Okay. Any questions for Brad on the plat? Somebody want to make a motion to approve it?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the final plat and accept easements and right-of-way for carriage houses number 10.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I do have one question.
Okay.
This is just curiosity. That section on the east over there, is that part of the old landscape area that they're actually moving into now?
That's correct.
Okay. That's what I thought, just was confirming.
Roll call, please.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yeah.
Mayor Walker.
Yes.
Danny Lake.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think we are now on to advisory, well, executive session, we don't have anything, correct? So advisory reports. City Administrator.
No report this evening. I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Questions for the City Administrator? Okay, you, go ahead.
He mentioned earlier about the CIP planning. I guess before you said that, I was going to ask that tonight, where we are on that and the public input. Have we scheduled anything or doing anything on that side?
Yeah, Brandon, is there anything specific scheduled? I know we've got off by a month, I think.
No, we haven't scheduled anything. I think we're waiting to kind of figure out where that funding line is. So taking our revenues and the projects and find that funding line, and then we'll come back and then we'll do the public engagement.
Okay.
Yeah, we intend a public engagement in February, I think was the latest, but we've just been delayed a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know that's bad, given the COVID. I think we're on maybe hopefully hit a peak, and in a month or so, that might be a better,
Yeah.
we might be in a better spot for a public
Yeah.
engagement endeavor. Anything else for
No,
Mike?
I don't think so.
Questions? All right. City Attorney.
Nothing for me. Rob covered it all. Thank you, Rob.
City Planner.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to let you know the 2020 CDBG project along 82nd Street is complete. On the Pay Ordinance tonight, we made our final payment to the contractor, but today I put the bid out for the 2021 project, which was built in 2022, which is also a sidewalk along Wea Street and then also a water line.
Okay. So you brought me a reminder that, so did we get your RFQ out for on-call engineering?
Yes, it's
Okay.
out. It's out, due at the end of the month on the, well, actually next week on the
Okay.
27th. Yeah.
All right.
Fielding some calls with that.
Thank you, Brad. City Clerk.
The only thing I have tonight is, last summer, City Council approved an agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management. We got our first of hopefully 4 vehicles this week, or last week, I guess. So Doug Smith is driving around a brand new Chevy Traverse that he's gonna keep around for a year. We're anticipating at least 2 more vehicles and crossing our fingers on that On that Ford Lightning.
I want to see it if we ever get it. I don't-
We just got our first kind of email back saying, you know, we can start to put it in, but we're kind of working on the terms to see if it makes sense.
All right. Thank you. Council comments. I'll start tonight. And I'm sorry we don't have a full house. I told Mike, I was just kidding about this, but so we've kind of been challenged by a few fellow mayors about approaching our governing bodies about a mask mandate. And my personal opinion, you know, Mission, Fairway, Roland Park, Prairie Village, they've got them, they put the onus on the individual. My concern is the same as it was before. We don't have any means to enforce it. So really you know, beyond encouraging maybe and having a store put up a sign, I really don't know that if we did a mandate, that we would have something that has any teeth. So I just want to gauge your opinion or inclination if we want to bring this forward as a topic for the our next meeting.
I was going to say, without teeth, they're not a mandate. They're pretty useless, and as represented by the disrespect of our local elected officials, they're not going to put them on because they have hearing exemptions.
I would be 100% for a mask mandate, because obviously I deal with this every day, and it's really getting frustrating as a healthcare provider. But I agree that it's just going to be a headache trying to enforce it, and I just don't see that going through it is worth the trouble of it.
Any thoughts, Councilman Hanamichael?
No, I mean, I think I agree with Lori. I would like to see it. I know our business has been impacted by our employees getting it, but I agree. I don't know how we would handle it. I'm glad we're doing it here at City Hall.
My thought is we would deputize each council member as enforcers of the mask mandate, give you a ticket book so then you can go out.
You really want to know on this?
I think
I better take about 10 books with me then, because.
Right. But that would be the only, I mean, in my mind, that's the only way that we can't ask these gentlemen to enforce our mask mandate. They've got other things they need to be doing. So it would fall on someone else to do that. So I don't see us being able to do it, but.
Well, without a mandate, I hope we just encourage everybody to do everything they can to stay healthy.
Good thoughts. Thank you. Ditto. Anything to add, Danny?
No, Mayor, just self-governing.
Yeah, to take care of yourself, right? Take responsibility for yourself. Look out for everybody else. Do what you can. Thank you. Danny, do you want to carry on? I'll turn the comments over to you if you have anything to add tonight.
Don't have anything, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm good, Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Rob?
Yeah, a couple things. And we've talked about it, but with what I stated about the Planning Commission tonight, two things. Number one, we had talked about doing a dual meeting of the council and Planning Commission. If we can get that on the books and actually start looking at having that happen.
Okay.
As well as make sure that our commissioners are properly trained.
Good points.
To where they know their role, they know the golden criteria, they know what their responsibilities are as they represent us. That's it.
All right. So, Mike,
Yeah.
Brad, can you guys work on this, getting some dates for the Planning Commission for joint
Yeah.
meeting?
So remember at our retreat, we had the idea to start workshops, and maybe these workshops are right before council meetings, or maybe they're on the off Thursdays. Our
Yes,
thought was
right.
that the first workshop is a joint meeting with the planning
Good point.
commission. So let's look at, that before that first meeting in February. I know, Lori, you have trouble getting here by 6, so maybe
Come
we could,
February, I should have some extra free time on my Thursdays, so I'll be able to come earlier.
Okay,
So-
so we'll look at maybe before that first February meeting, if the planning commission's available.
Good plan. All right.
And the other thing we've done, if we need more than an hour, is we move the start time of the council meeting back by half an hour, if we could want to do that. That was the plan.
Good plan. Let's get her done. Lori?
So all of that reminded me of what I really had in mind. So there were the two things. One was the TIF ideas and when we were going to do the public forum type things for that. But the second was our strategic planning. Have we not gotten that back from Jeannie, or have we? And I missed that. Did I lose something here?
Yeah, there was a document, a summary document that Jeannie put out.
That I got?
Did that?
I don't think I've seen that. If I did, it didn't get to my inbox, so if we could resend it to me.
Yeah,
That'd be nice.
we got it back. Let me see. I think the last comment, we were waiting on a final draft, but let me follow up and I'll get back with you.
Okay. It'd just be kind of good to start looking what we had planned. I mean, that's kind of our scope of planning for the next few years.
Right.
So I'd like to get that as soon as possible.
That has probably fallen off my radar. I'll loop back with her tomorrow and get that sent out.
Thank you. That's all.
All right. Kevin?
Yeah, I don't know where to start, so I'm just gonna hold off.
Okay. All right. I think I'm ready to end.
That'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
The YouTube stream is still going until I get over there and push the button. I know it's way behind.